I'm Sally, I'm an alcoholic. Just off the bat, yes, I am a crier. I will cry during the share. Typically, this is why these tissues were actually bought into this meeting. I think it was bought around about my 2-year share. And it's been here because I've cried ever since. So, yes. The other thing I want to say is, I'm sure everybody here knows, I'm currently a new mom and I've had no sleep and I have mom brain today. So I'm going to try to get through this to the best of my ability and try not to stuff it up. I think, we generally share in a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. But before I get to that, there's two things that I kind of want to share about. The first thing is something that stands out for me in the promises, which is we will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And that's been my experience. When I look back now at the change and how I respond to certain situations compared to what it was like when I came in, it's completely different. To be honest, this morning I woke up, hadn't slept, I'd had a bit of an argument with my partner the night before, the last thing I wanted to do today was come and share. I'll be honest with you, 7 o'clock this morning, I'm calling it, not going. But what I've learned in this program is I show up regardless of how I'm feeling. So made the decision to honour my commitments. But where the change came in for me is, so my partner is actually going through some of his own stuff at the moment. He's not one of us. But my head tells me, I'm the addict. I'm the only person who's allowed to go through things. He's not allowed to have his own stuff going on for him. But luckily, I have a program that tells me different. And anyway, he's going through his own stuff. And yesterday he kind of lashed out at me. And he said some stuff that was quite hurtful. And but what I did with that is, in the moment, I was able to say, actually, that's not okay. I'm not doing this with you. And I left it. I wasn't able to get hold of my sponsor straight away. So it was very uncomfortable for a couple of hours. I sent her voice notes. I had to wait about 3 or 4 hours. I had to sit in those emotions until she responded, and she said, it's not about you. Don't take it on. Just it's not about you. And I think for me, the change comes in where I didn't react to that situation. Although it was uncomfortable, although I didn't like the way it made me feel, I didn't react to it. Old me, whenever we used to have an argument, would say, well, I would run, I would leave, I would go on a 2-day bender, then end up back at his house hurling abuse at his mother, and ended up having to have security come and escort me off the premises. That's what my life used to be like. Today, I can say, you know what? You're going through stuff, I understand that, not about me, don't take it on, and I can get on with it. Although I didn't sleep last night because my addict brain will build all these cases in my head and tell me all the reasons of why he's an arsehole and justify it, and I won't sleep as a result, which is my stuff. But I have a program that tells me today, no, I'm an arsehole because I'm making it about me and it's not about me. Anyway, moving on from that. The next thing I want to share about is just the gratitude I have for this program. Normally, when I come into, I'm going to be honest, when I was in meetings and people open their share with gratitude, I think, but the gratitude I have to share about, this program has really given me my life back. When I look at where I was 4 years ago, I was actually saying to somebody yesterday, once you've had a bit of time in this program, it's easy to forget what life was like. And I often forget about where I came from and what it was like then. And one of the reasons why, I asked Tracy to chair for me, she was my counsellor, and I thought, well, if I'm going to go back, I might as well go right back to where it started. And the gratitude I have for this program of where it took me, when I came into treatment, I had nothing left. I had lost my job. I had no more money. My relationship was in shambles. My family wasn't talking to me. The only person that was somewhat there for me still was my mom, because she was willing to put me in treatment. I couldn't go back. I had nowhere to go because, I couldn't go back to my fiancé's house. He was staying with his mom at the time, and as I said, I had obviously completely written off that relationship. She wanted nothing to do with me. I couldn't go back to my mom's house because my stepdad and I had also got into physical altercation because I'd made him that sick. He didn't want me back there. The only thing I had left to my name was my car. And I remember getting up to treatment, and I remember seeing my car there, and I couldn't understand why it was there. And Keith called me into the back saying, I see you don't understand why your car's here. And I said, yeah, and he said, well, how did you think you were going to pay for treatments? I said, not with my bloody car, I can tell you that now. And I remember he very, very bluntly said to me, well, you can take your car and you can go live on the streets of Scottsboro, you can give it up and stay and get better and make a decision. And that's what I did. I very reluctantly handed over my car. It was the only thing I had left, but I made the decision and I stayed and listen, it's not like I just made the decision and all of a sudden became willing and overnight was this, it took a lot of work, a lot of concerns. I think I was concerned probably every Monday, Wednesday and Friday for the first 2 months of treatment, consequences, bans, the lot. I was definitely not the person you see sitting here today. But today I am grateful because if it wasn't for all of that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And where I am today is I have a life that is completely different. I've just recently become a mom. I have a beautiful baby girl. And she's honestly like my greatest blessing. When they told me when I was sitting in treatment, this program will give you a life beyond your wildest dreams, I never could have imagined. My perception of what a life beyond my wildest dreams has changed. Back then I thought it was mansion up in wherever, living the life. No, today what the program has given me is freedom. Freedom to although I know I'll never be normal, to live somewhat of a normal life today, which for someone like me was not possible. It's given me freedom to just, enjoy life, enjoy the simple present. I'll get into it a little bit later on in my share, but, just looking back now, the amount of the last couple of months have been rough, and there was a lot of fear around my pregnancy. There was a lot of, my daughter had low birth weight. I had to have an emergency C-section. There was just a lot of stuff. We didn't have the finances. My medical aid, there was a whole lot of stuff there. My medical aid didn't want to cover the hospital that I went to. It was a whole lot of stuff. And just simply because of this program, because of God, because of the people in it, everything just worked out. And that's been my experience. My exact experience is whenever things are like whenever I'm struggling, whenever, things are all over the place and everything's a mess and, I get on my knees, I hand it over and, and I do what I need to do, I continue doing what I need to do. I go to meetings, I share about it, I pull back into the fellowship and everything just works out. Do you know what I mean? So I'm incredibly grateful, which I will again get back to later on in my share, but I think for now I'm just kind of start about, sorry, I'm all over the place. I suppose, what it was like, what happened and what it's like now. So what it was like, my reality is I grew up in an alcoholic home. My dad was an alcoholic, and there was a lot of fighting and abuse that went on in my home, a lot of stuff that I saw which I shouldn't have seen, although despite that, my parents gave me the best upbringing that they could. I never went without anything. My parents were extremely loving and supportive. And they gave my sister and I the best, they did the best that they could. But I suppose for me, I was always, my whole life, I've been a victim of everything, I was always, woe is me, life is so hard, why does this always have to happen to me, kind of a thing. And I kind of adapted that mentality from a very young age. I was also very dishonest. I suppose, I didn't really want to let people know what was going on at home, so I used to go to school on a Monday morning, and people used to share about, tell the class what they did on the weekend, and I would come with these outrageous stories about how we did all these things that never actually really happened, you know what I mean? I shared about a brother that I never had. I don't have a brother, by the way. I would tell people I had this brother, and when people come around and say, where's your brother? I'd say, oh no, he's out at friends, or whatever, I don't know, I'd make up some story. But I think for me, the key point there is I was always dishonest. I was always telling stories. I was always exaggerating truths. And I think for me, when I look back now in hindsight, it's, I always had this desperate need to want to be liked, to want to fit in, to want to be a part of things, And yeah, and I did. I told stories. I thought it would make me sound cool or sound better than what I actually was, you know. And that's kind of, because I never really felt a part of. I never felt like I fitted in. I was quite an overweight little girl, so I got teased about that a lot. And yeah, I did what I needed to do in order to feel a part of stuff and to be accepted, I suppose. Anyway, fast forward a little bit later, primary school, I was very academic. I did very well in school. However, I always had this rebellious streak. I was always in detention, always getting into trouble. You know, when I think about it now, my report cards was always like, Sally is an outstanding student. Yeah, talks too much in class, can't follow the rules, can't, you know what I mean? Like, there was always this behavioural aspect of it. That I just always seemed to, there was just always something off about my behaviour. I remember having friends and I was quite hurt I would go spend a weekend at their house and then their parents would say, I'm not allowed there again. And I didn't understand that as a kid, you know, but obviously they could see something in me that I couldn't, you know. Anyway, fast forward a couple of years, get to high school, and of course I want to fit in with cool kids, right? So what do? I found the first set of kids that are smoking and drinking and carrying on, and I'm like, that's my crowd, right? Because that's going to make me cool. So that's what I did. And I started smoking and I started drinking. And I remember the first time I drank, I got completely wasted. And I remember being violently hungover the next morning. And I hated, because for some reason alcohol always made me sick in the morning, but yet I liked the way it made me feel. I liked the effect it had on me, because all of a sudden I drank, and all of a sudden I felt comfortable in my own skin. I could laugh. I was funny. I could talk to people. I felt like the life of the party, you know. And for me, this was my solution, you know, which I carried with me for a very long time. So that was pretty much high school, drank, partied, you know, got into a lot of trouble. You know, I was pretty much the black sheep of the family for a while, because I kind of just did my own thing. I remember I used to say to my parents, I marched to the sound of my own drum or something like that, you know. So I was kind of just like, for me, it was just saying I kind of do things my own way. And that's the way I've always kind of done things in my life, is my own way. Just a lot of arrogance, a lot of just always thinking I know better, you know. From there, I suppose I got into one thing I realise now, which is quite evident for me, is that it's not the drugs and alcohol that makes me an addict or alcoholic. It's me. There's something wrong with me. And I do not react to alcohol and substances the way normal people do. But as an addict, I can fix off of anything you give me, not just substances. From that, I got into, people became a fix for me, relationships. There was always a boy in the background, and trust me, when I got my eye on somebody, God help that person, because I would go to any lengths to get that person. I don't care who I hurt or what I did, but if I had my eye on you, you know, it was done. So not very proud to say that, but and that person would become like my higher power, and it would become a fix for me. And if I got rejected or if that relationship ended, I would go into this absolute devastation. And I couldn't cope. Food was also another fix for me. You know, I really struggled with the eating stuff. I still sometimes struggle with it today. But I think what I'm trying to get at is, give me anything that will change the way I feel, and I will fix off of it. It's not just about drugs and alcohol. But yes, you know, for I suppose for the purpose of this meeting, you know, I will focus on the alcohol and the drinking and the stuff specifically. So yeah, I mean, in my teens, my drinking definitely progressed, but not to the point where everybody thought that I had a problem. You know, it was just definitely, Sally likes to party, people knew that, and I did, you know, and it was a lot of fun in the beginning. Not a lot of consequences. But yeah, eventually, you know, they changed. A lot of the other thing I wanted to sort of talk about is when I spoke about wanting to fit in and wanting to be accepted. The other thing is that when I look back now in hindsight, is like I was a social chameleon. I would change depending on what kind of friends I had at the time, who I was dating at the time. You know, when I look back now at my different relationships, you know, I dated like this bad boy, debt collector type of thing. And next thing I was wearing leather and I dyed my hair red and I got tattoos, whatever. And then next thing I was dating this gym bunny and I was going to gym every day and I was like heavy into fitness and all this kind of stuff. And then like, so depending on who I was around or who I was dating at the time or whatever, like I would literally morph myself into like a different person, you know, which I completely had no identity by the time I came into treatment, had no idea who I was. Yeah, after a lot of, I suppose, bad and unhealthy relationships, now I'm getting lost. Oh, sorry, yes, one thing I also wanted to touch on is at 25 years old, my dad passed away, which was very difficult for me. I did not deal with it well. My dad in my life was like my hero, and we were super close. And when he passed away, I felt like something had been ripped out of me. But what I did with that is, because I'm a selfish, self-centered person, right? I made it all about me. Not once did I consider my family and what they were going through. I didn't consider that my sister just lost her father. I didn't consider that my mom had just lost her husband. I made it all about me, and that went on for years. And I weaponized it, you know, I used it as an excuse to make my family feel sorry for me. And, you know, I threatened whenever, you know, it was always about Sally's going through a hard time. We need to be there for Sally, you know. Say, Shane, Sally's father passed away. Sally's not dealing with it. And it was always about me, you know. Yeah, eventually I met my current partner, and Shane was poor oak, what I put him through in the beginning. But he stuck around, which makes me think, I don't know if he's okay, but but he stuck around. We've been together 10 years now. And still back then, you know, I was a heavy partier, a heavy drinker, but still no, I was not an everyday drinker. Yeah, and there were signs, like he would say to me, maybe you need to cut back on the drinking, maybe you need to maybe just slow it down a bit, don't go out tonight, things like this, you know. And like I thought he was kind of trying to control me, and what I do when I feel like I'm being controlled is I completely rebel, and that's what I did, you know. And Shane, I gave this guy a hard time. I would disappear for 3 days on end. Whenever he'd say, please stay home tonight, I would be like, well, if you, I'm going out, you know what I mean, stop trying to control me. And I'd go out and I'd disappear for 3 days and like be like, I'll show you, you know. I'll show you who can't drink. Let me have another one. Just always defiant and like, you know, pressing boundaries. And yeah, anyway. So eventually he gave me an ultimatum and he said, look, I can't deal with this anymore. Either you're going to stop the drinking because this is not the life I want to live, or I'm going to go. At that stage, because I was fixing off the relationship, I was able to stop drinking on my own at that stage. But during that year, I became increasingly depressed, not knowing at all that I was an alcoholic, but I became increasingly depressed. I was just, but I suppose what they say, restless, irritable, and discontent. I was a dry drunk, really. And I was miserable to be around. And, you know, blamed him for all of it. You took away my fun, it was all his fault, right? It was never ever could never take responsibility for anything I'd done. Anyway, and through that, I became, I went mad. That year, I probably went the maddest I've ever been. I ended up in my first psychiatric ward at the end of that year. Because with that, of course, the solution to my depression and, you know, and it wasn't because I'd stopped drinking in my mind, it was because I was depressed, life was hard, this and that, my father had died, etc. My solution was to go see the doctor and be put on prescription medication. And for me, that is where my disease really took me. Because from there, it was just a downward spiral of 5 years of absolute chaos. During that time, my partner and I had also, because I'd become extremely controlling and jealous and just, a nasty piece of work, really. He ended the relationship. And what I did with it, on top of the prescription medication, is I decided to start drinking again. And what that did is it sent me into psychosis. I ended up in my first psychiatric unit. And yeah, just mad. Absolutely completely just not okay. Coming out of there, I had agreed to try going to meetings. I came to the rooms the first time. But if I'm completely honest, or if I'm completely honest with everybody, I was never clean throughout that whole time. I would sit in the meetings, I would pretend to listen, I was racking up 30-day, 60-day, 90-day chips. Meanwhile, I was popping into the bathroom during the meeting to pop benzos. I was never clean throughout that whole time. So completely dishonest. And I never went there because I wanted to get better. I went there because I wanted to get my relationship back and I wanted my partner to think I was doing better. Just completely dishonest to the core. Anyway, needless to say, I got the relationship back and that recovery went out the window. Never went back to meetings. I remember my sponsor that I had gotten at the time, she said to me, I was just like, thank you, don't think this is for me, don't want what you guys have, I'm not as bad as you, I don't need to be here, I can do this on my own. And I remember her saying to me, and at that time I still had all my stuff. I had my car, I had a roof over my head, I had a job, I was able to support myself. So in my mind, I was still sort of okay, and I suppose that's why I came into the rooms very judgmental, judged everybody else. I was still looking at all the differences. Haven't been on the street, haven't lost my job, haven't done any of this stuff, so not like you people. Anyway, and I remember my sponsor saying to me, you can leave, but if you leave, all those things that you still have, they will go. All those things that haven't happened yet, they will happen. Anyway, very arrogantly, I was like, no, well, I know better, don't need this. 4.5 years later, in and out of psych wards, tons of prescription medication. I don't want to go into, obviously, the amounts and stuff that I was using, but just how I'm allowed today, I don't know, to be honest. I did a lot of mini geographicals. I would run away from Joburg because Joburg was the problem. I'd come to Durban to my mom because that was going to fix me, and then I would just carry myself here and the problem would start here all over again, and then I'd run back to Joburg, and it was just a back and forth cycle. Eventually, at some point, I came here and I tried to detox on my own, and my progression had gotten to the point where obviously I was using everyday copious amounts a day, and there was a part of me that wanted to stop. I just didn't know how, but every time I tried and I would try to detox and go cold turkey, I would end up having seizures. And my mom had to look after me during this time, and what I didn't think about was, my father passed away from a seizure, and what must have gone through my mom's mind seeing her child going through the same stuff, and not knowing if I'm going to make it, or if I'm going to pull through, and not once did I ever think about what I was putting her through during this time. Anyway, after my last stints of running back to Joburg, ending up again in a psychiatric observation unit, I came back to, I had caused chaos at my house. I'd just made my family so sick, to be honest. My stepdad we got into a physical altercation with each other. He wanted nothing to do with me. Of course, I played the victim and I blamed it on him, and it was his fault and he's abusive and this and that. Meanwhile, I had created all this chaos, Anyway, my last trip back to Joburg, my last trip back to Durban, that night, him and I got into another huge fight, and I tried to take all my tablets. Little did I know, I had just grabbed something. It was antibiotics. You can't overdose on antibiotics. It just makes you really sick. Failed attempt there. But anyway, but with that, he kicked myself and my mom out, and we ended up at a next door neighbor. And and they had called somebody. They knew that somebody up at the house who had organised to get me into treatment. I woke up the next morning not knowing I was going to treatment, and next thing I knew, the house on the hill was there to fetch me. I did not take it very well. I freaked out. I saw my mother. I saw the guy. His name was Wayne at the time. I saw him. Anyway, and I reluctantly came into treatment. My mom told me I was only staying 28 days, and I was like, okay, I'll stay 28 days. Obviously, in her mind, she had obviously planned that I would be there, as long as I could be. And I suppose that's kind of where my journey started. I mentioned I had to give up my car to pay for my treatment. But also that didn't cover my treatment. I stayed on grace a lot of the time that I was there. I ended up staying 4 months. But I was given the opportunity, which I didn't see then, but I see it now. I was given the opportunity of a new life. And I'm so grateful for that. I was introduced to the 12 steps. I took a very long time on step 1. Just a lot of denial, I just couldn't see my own stuff, Shame poor Tracy, I think she had to put up with a lot. There was a lot of denial stuff there, a lot of just, I honestly, when I came to treatment, I honestly thought I was a nice person. I honestly thought everybody else was the problem. I was just misunderstood. I suppose for me, I never really wanted to, at the time when I came in, I wanted to know how to kind of monitor my medication. When I found out I had to come off my medication, I was like, what? Are you insane? I think I actually swore Mary. The first day she came in to see me, I was like, this place is nuts. What do you mean? I can't come off my medication, I'll die. Anyway. And I remember Mary saying, I'll come back, but, you don't have to make a decision now. We'll talk about it, But somewhere along the line, through a lot of, like I said, a lot of concerns, a lot of consequences, a lot of just stuff, something shifted. Something definitely shifted. I think it sort of started with my life story and life story feedback. I think that's where I started to get a glimpse of maybe I'm not okay. But for me, I think it was, during that I decided to, made the decision, going to stay a little bit longer, and I made the decision to come off my prescription medication, I was very afraid, I trusted what the counsellors told me, and I did, and I came off my prescription medication. Also, I came in with believing that I had all these disorders, bipolar, borderline personality type 2, manic depressive, all this stuff. The reality is I'm actually none of those things today. I'm just an alcoholic. That's the reality is I don't have all these disorders that are, and again, this is just my experience, and I'm very grateful today to be just an alcoholic. So kind of went through the steps. Step 4 and 5 for me was incredibly difficult, although I think I remember Tracy saying, I thought that was a really good step 4 and 5. I was devastated after my step 4 and 5. Some people were sharing about they had some big pink fluffy cloud. That was not my experience. For me, I think because that is the first time I could actually really see me for who I was. I could see myself through all the madness, I could see my defects, because clearly everybody else could see my defects. I just couldn't see it. And I think it was the first time that I was actually like, shit, this is who I am. And that was devastating for me, Step 4 and step 8 were really the hardest steps for me, because step 8 also, where I had to put pen to paper and really look at everything I'd done to other people. And I think that is one of the steps that really hit home for me. Because it's one of those things, it's seeing what I've done to others that makes me not okay with being who I was, and seeing the pain that I cause and the hurt that I cause to other people when I'm stuck in my madness, Anyway, but after step 4 and 5, I'm jumping back and forth here. Step 6 and 7 is where I think I started to finally see a change, because that is the change, right? Step 6 and 7. And all of a sudden I had like a spring in my step. I stopped getting concerned. I actually got acknowledged. Life was good, you know. And yeah, I suppose that was kind of my symptom treatment. And when I look back now, just how much has changed and just how much grace I've been shown, you know, since I came in, and just how much life has changed over the last 4 years. It hasn't always been easy. I haven't always followed suggestion. I haven't always done the right thing, but, you know, I try. And what I do today is when I do stuff up, because at the end of the day, first and foremost, I'm an addict and an alcoholic. Secondly, I'm human and I make mistakes. What I've done today is, because what I used to do is I used to beat myself up with every single mistake I made, try to be this perfect person that I'm not. Sorry. And I'm by no means perfect. And today, I don't have to be perfect. I try. Actually, I'm quite happy with the fact that I'm not perfect. I allow myself to make those mistakes. Because you know what? What I've learned is I don't grow where I'm comfortable, I'm working a perfect program, I'm doing everything right. That's not where I grow. Where I grow in this program is where I make mistakes, where I bump my head. But what I do and what I've learned is when that happens and when I make those mistakes and when I stuff up, I don't run, I don't drink, and I don't choose. What I do is I face it, I own it, and I take responsibility. And that's how I've got into where I am today. Trust me, this program is it's by no means this rosy, all of a sudden I've come into recovery and everything's amazing. And no, it's hard. It's really hard. And some days I'm a mess, and some days I'm flipping full of tears and I don't know what I'm doing. And but I have people to guide me. I have a sponsor. I have people in the fellowship. I have these meetings that I can go to and I can express myself and I can share about and I can be open and I can be raw and I can be vulnerable and I can share about what's really going on for me. Because some days I really struggle. But again, I'm so grateful because this program has given me the opportunity to do that. I don't have to isolate anymore and hide and be alone and go through things on my own. One thing I found in this program, and this is the one thing, one thing I do have to say. Sorry, I know I'm all over the place. But, so as I mentioned, when I came into this program, I came in literally with nothing. I had lost everything. In 4 years, what I have gained back and more, because I remember them saying to me, whatever you've lost, if you carry on with this program, you will gain back tenfold. And I never believed that. I remember the suggestion I was given was 35 years old, go out, get a humble job, be a waitress. And I thought, are you kidding me? Like, how am I going to rebuild my life working as a waitress? And you know what I mean? And the really humbling experience for me was, part of my amends was, so before I came into treatment, I was working as a events manager at Selborne Estates. And they were the people who helped get me into treatment. When I came back, I went back to go work at Selborne as a waitress, serving the people that I was managing with. That's a really humbling experience. But anyway, but in 4 years, and 4 years might sound like a long time, but it's honestly been, it's happened in the flash of an eye. I am fully self-supporting today. I'm working for a company that I dreamed of working for from when I got into this industry 12 years ago. I have my dream job today. I am fully self-supporting. I'm able to put a roof over my head. I have another car. It's not a great car, but it's a car, and it gets me from A to B, and I'm so grateful for my little car. I have a relationship with my family today. My stepdad, who wanted nothing to do with me, is one of my best friends today. We do stuff together today. We spend time together. We laugh together. And he's honestly he is my go-to person, you know what I mean? He's in my corner cheering for me every single day. My mom, she sleeps at night. I remember when she came to come see me in treatment, she looked like she had aged about 25 years. Today, she looks good, she smiles, she laughs, My sister, it's been a difficult, because my sister, I do believe, is one of us. I can't diagnose anybody, but I do believe that she is one of us. And it's been a difficult relationship for the first 2 years of my recovery. I judged her because she wouldn't believe that she was one of us, didn't want to get better, whatever. Today, I've been able to find some compassion for her, and I have a relationship with her today, a good relationship. I've just been in Joburg recently. I took my daughter to go and see our family, and I spent a lot of time with my sister, and it was beautiful. I think what I'm trying to get at, besides all the external things that I've received in this program, like, you know, the job, the finances, things like that, the most important things that I've received in this program, the gifts of recovery for me really have been the restored relationships. You know, I also have a lot of friends from the past that wanted nothing to do with me. It's taken me 4 years to actually do those amends. I did those amends recently in Joburg. And I'm talking to those people again today, and I'm forming a relationship with them today. And then, of course, the people I have in this program, you know, I still feel all over the place. The greatest gift I've received in this program is connection. For somebody like me, and I think that was something I was searching for my whole entire life, I always felt not a part of. I felt isolated and alone, and today I don't feel like that. Today I feel a part of something. I walk into these rooms and I feel a part of everybody in this room. You know, every person here is an extended part of my spiritual family. And I walk into the rooms anyway. You know, I go to Joburg, I walk into the rooms there. The fellowship's not the same as here, but I still feel at home. I feel like I belong. And yeah, the connection I have, you know, just to life, into people today, to life in general, to God. My relationship with my higher power is something, you know, and that's one thing I can say that, and I'm very grateful for, is that I've always had a good understanding of God. But through the program, through the 12 steps, because I had no connection, I've been able to form a connection with my higher power. And let me tell you what, God has come through for me so many times. I can't tell you the amount of times where stupid little things have happened. Like, I'm short this amount of money at the end of the month, and somehow miraculously, and I don't know how it's going to work, and I pray about it, hand it over, and somehow money ends up in my account from somebody double debited me 3 months ago that I wasn't, and somehow that money came through, and it's the exact amount of what I need to cover what, like, stuff with my beautiful baby girl. You know, as I said, there was just so much stuff. There's so much fear around her birth, finances, like, and I just kept praying. I remember the morning of her birth, just saying, God, take the wheel, God, take the wheel, God, take the wheel. And everything turned out fine. You know, she was born prem. She was a little bit small, but she didn't have to go into NICU. She was perfectly healthy. And, you know, yeah. And then of course I have to share about the people in these rooms and the people that have shown up for me. You know, the friendships I have in the rooms today. You know, my birthday, my last birthday that I had when I came in active addiction. How am I doing for time? Okay. The last birthday that I had in active addiction, I spent it completely alone. I think the only two people that wished me was my partner and my mom. Those were the only two people who wished me for my birthday. Last year on my birthday, well, actually every year on my birthday this year, I have spent with beautiful people in these rooms. But last year specifically, I had friends throw me a baby shower for my birthday. My best friend threw me a baby shower, and I had people come through from Hillcrest, from Belito, from like all over. Like you know, and I was blown away that people wanted to. Not only did I have that baby shower for my birthday, I had people throw me 4 baby showers. I mean, who gets 4 baby showers? Do you know what I mean? Because people today want to celebrate me. Do you know what I mean? They want to be around me. They want to celebrate me. They want to, you know, people, which blows my mind because this was not my reality 4 years ago. So yeah, I think, sorry, I've kind of been rambling, and it's but yeah, but again, I can just bring it down to gratitude. And you know, this program has given me my life back. It really has. And if there's anybody here who is toying with the idea of, does this really work? Well, I can tell you now, and it's only through my own experience that the life I have today is a life beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. Thanks for letting me share.